Okay, let's jump into this little Cowboys Twitter here. A lot of Bijan Robinson talk going on Cowboys Twitter, and a lot of talk about him to the Eagles. That's got to be the 30th overall pick, though, right? If the Eagles do end up going with him, because the 10th, from what I can tell, they love this Jalen Carter defensive tackle to maybe replace the Hargrave effect and, you know, replace some of the older defensive linemen there. What are you guys hearing?
Would make a lot of sense. I mean, we'll see if Carter makes it to
Nolan
10.
Smith is getting a lot of buzz there, too.
Nolan Smith is.
The other Georgia guy. He's a stud. He's a stud.
Yeah, he's an edge rusher. He's also getting buzz maybe to the Falcons at 8 as well.
There you go.
So, I mean, one of those two players, though, it's very likely they're there at 10. And Howie Roseman, we know he drafts line of scrimmage. So I wouldn't be surprised if it Pete Skoronski or the Bong Band is even in play there at 10.
Well, our Path to the Draft coverage is brought to you by Pluckers. On night one of the draft, the fan will be at all 8 Pluckers locations. They have some cool specials and prizes. And by our friends at K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, your draft headquarters is right here on 105.3 The Fan. I'd be stunned if Howie Roseman takes Bijan Robinson at 10. I think at 30 it makes quite a bit more sense. A lot of, talk about, are the Cowboys going to take him if he is there at 26? And I think I'd be surprised right now. I think the Ezekiel Elliott whole career arc has to be fresh in your mind and thinking, okay, how many great years did we get? And what's happening around the NFL? You have Derrick Henry that's given you a good second contract. Are there others? What is our chance of having a long-term good player here, and what exactly would we be getting? I would imagine, 2 or 3 really good years and then the beginning of a drop-off. And I think the Cowboys are thinking along those lines. Have they ever had 2 running backs at the same time that they've given very significant assets to? I don't know. I would just be stunned if they actually end up taking Bijan Robinson. But, I do want to throw it out there because it is the top draft conversation that's happening out there, no doubt, amongst Cowboys fans.
I think people in the organization, again, they've been really, really tight-lipped over there. But they've also know the board. They don't know which way the board is going to fall to them. And I think that if Bijan was there, I think they would take him. I think that if you're the Eagles and the Cowboys could potentially be sitting on Bijan Robinson at 26 and you're sitting there at 30, I legitimately worry about the Giants allowing them to take that player. I think Howie would try and find a way to get ahead of Dallas if they felt like that Bijan Robinson was going to end up with the Cowboys.
Yeah, maybe Jacksonville at 24, the Giants at 25.
Yeah, I think there's 2 teams. And maybe the Giants, Todd Archer and I were talking about that this morning. If you're the Giants, would you let Philadelphia in knowing that they could potentially take Bijan Robinson?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then if you're a Cowboys and you're sitting there and you're thinking that you'd like the opportunity, now you've got other, you're going to see how the board's going to fall. But if he's their best player on their board, I don't think they pass on that one. I really don't.
I could see that as well.
I'm just saying, I'm not cheerleading for the move. I'm just saying that if he gets to 26,
that's how they do it.
But I would think about the Eagles behind you going, we're not going to let you have him. That kind of a move. Maybe a small.
We've seen him do it before. Dallas Goedert.
Yeah. They've done it before.
Well, and if your draft board is sitting like Bijan Robinson is this great and the tags aren't even close, you got to come down here to guards and, linebackers and stuff that aren't even close, then I would respect your opinion huge there and how the Cowboys would process that decision. They've been going BPA and not even blinking.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. That's the only reason. I'm saying Bijan Robinson would be the only running back that they would take at 26.
Oh, yeah, he'd be the only one I would take.
I don't think that it's Gibbs or anybody else is in play. I just feel like that they would look at that as too good of a value for them to pass up. Now, does it get him the second contract and all that? I think you have to look at it as a 7-year deal, much like you did with Ezekiel Elliott, and then you just move on. That's how I think that they would look at it. I don't think they're at that position particularly interested in they've got the 5 years. They've got potential tags they can use. You can carry this thing all the way out if you want. I don't think they give him a huge contract, but I think they know the value of the player.
Well, I'm seeing a lot of Jahmyr Gibbs love this week, and some people talking about how they'd actually get surprised at this point if Jahmyr Gibbs does not go in round 1. Yeah. I wonder if a team like the Eagles, maybe they're one of the teams that likes Gibbs more than Robinson. We don't care to trade up.
If they can't swing a deal, because they know that I believe that Philadelphia has done their homework on this. I believe they have an idea that Dallas would take because they have. I mean, they've taken best available player. They've done that. There's a history there. So, and, you really, what Steven and everybody's talking about yesterday, they were talking about running backs and the difference between taking one at 4, which they thought, okay, looking back, terrible idea. Taking one at 26 is a different thing. But I feel like that Philadelphia is sitting there looking at that. If we really want Bijan Robinson, we're probably going to have to get ahead of Dallas if he slides down to that point in the draft.
You get the best player at his position for 5 years through that rookie contract, picking him at 26. To me, even if he doesn't get the second contract, it was a good pick.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be a guy there that you could justify taking, and part of the reason why is Steven talked about it. Maybe the deepest position in the draft is running back.
No question.
So that's the reason why you don't just go, okay, he's the best player on our board. Sure, that's fine, but it's almost a little bit short-sighted and a little bit lazy to just go, well, he's the best player on our board. That's the way it goes when there's other valuable positions that if you pass on now, you're not getting in round 2 or 3. So you take that, and I know in round 3 I can get a dang good running back. I know I can.
I feel like in the first round you try and take the player that has the least, I think, the least amount of chance of busting.
Yes.
And maybe if you take Torrance, the guard from Florida, or maybe you take Avila from TCU, or you take the third tight end or the second tight. There's bust factors, but there's bust factors in the running back. I get it. To me, I think the consensus, if you talk to every team in the league, they would tell you that the bust factor of that particular player is very small.
Right.
That's the only reason why I would look at this, because I'm thinking in the first round I'm trying to get a player A I'm not going to bust on, and B is going to help me win games.
Well, and Steven emphasized the importance of how you stack your board and trusting your board. And I mean, you went through and gave your stack compared to Daniel Jeremiah, compared to Dane Brugler. I've got Bijan as the 4th best player. You've got him as the 3rd. Right. The other two, they still probably have him in the top 5, right? It's not lazy when you spend months stacking this board, going over and going through these players, and when you put him there for a reason. So now all of a sudden we're on the clock, we're not going to take him, then why'd you put him there? Yeah,
that's window dressing your board. To me, that Daniel Jeremiah had him at 3 and Dane had him at 6. Those are the two. And again, it's just I could go through 210 players on my board and tell you, well, we're different in a lot of different ways. But to me,
and the scouts will do it at every position. Like, oh man, we got to take this guard. Well, there's a guard I like in the 4th. Oh, there's an edge I like. Like, you can do that for every position.
Well, there's a guard in the 4th. There's 10 running backs.
There's a big drop-off from Bijan to the next running back, in my opinion.
Oh, in your opinion, but a lot of people would tell you that Jahmyr Gibbs might be better. I mean, that might be patently absurd, but I'm just saying.
I think it is, and I don't buy that story that came out. I don't think there's a team in the league that has Gibbs ahead of Bijan.
Okay, let me move on, but stay here at the same time. We go to Dan Rogers and Cowboys Twitter here, blogging the boys. From pre-draft, combine, pro day meetings, and Dallas State participants, here's the position distribution. They have met with 8 running backs. It is their second highest position. That seems like a team that's preparing to take a guy later on. Maybe they don't feel like Bijan's going to be there at 26. Maybe they want contingencies. It's definitely a team that is planning to take a running back and is putting a high priority in it. The only position they've had visit more is wide receiver. Do you guys have a great feeling or understanding right now of what you think the Cowboys' top priorities are? And are running back, wide receiver sitting there? Certainly, I'd be thinking interior offensive lineman and defensive tackle right now myself.
What Stephen Jones today said, he felt like they asked him the deep position. And
he said tight end.
He said tight end, and he used a phrase of, to our benefit.
Yes.
He was talking about now to our benefit, the tight end group is deep. Now, that also might mean he doesn't have to take a tight end at 26. He could take a tight end at 90, or whatever position he wants.
Okay.
But I like I said, I think the visit, like I say, I'm not sitting here stumping for Bijan Robinson. I'm just telling you, I do feel like if he's there, that they'll take him.
Yeah, I trust your gut on that.
I'm not trying to say, damn it, this thing is going to be
right.
It's a bad situation. They're going to take I'm not doing that. because you guys are right. They could use a tight end. They could use. I mean, they're talking about edge rusher. Nobody's screaming about edge rusher right now with McDonald.
I think
edge rusher's a position. I think that on their depth chart, they're actually pretty deep at.
Well, hey, just give me a good player. At 26, if you get a guy that steps in and starts no later than year 2 and makes a couple of Pro Bowls, I'm stoked.
But to answer your question, I think third round, if they don't end up with a Bijan slide to 26 and they take him, I think the third round is the sweet spot to take it back. And we mentioned the names like Roschon Johnson from Texas, Kendre Miller from TCU, Tajay Spears they've met with from Tulane, who I love as well. I think the third round's kind of where they'd look.
And I'll tell you what, I'm starting to get excited about this cornerback situation. I mean, with some of the ways that you were seeing guys that might be falling. I mean, when you talk about drafting a premium position, that should be priority number one, Absolutely. Whether you need it or not. And so maybe it is edge rusher there, Broadus. Maybe you don't need one right there, but gosh dang it, that's a premium position. So is corner. Well, that should be the biggest hope, is that one of these stud edge rushers or one of these stud corners falls to you. There could not be a better home run situation for the Cowboys at 26.
That's why people are talking about Cansey, the tackle from Pitt. Like if you pair Cansey with the Cowboys edge rushers, now what do you have? You have edge rushers plus an inside guy that can cause problems.
There you go.
It's fun to think about.
Morning News has a story up with Stephen Jones talking about the Arkansas linebacker Drew Sanders. This is a player you guys have liked.
Yeah, he's right around 28 on my board. So if at 26, that's right where I think he needs to be taken.
Machota has a 7-round mock-up. Matt Miller, 7-round mocks. And there's all sorts of Cowboys content we'll continue to discuss with you.